If you're learning a new language, this mistake may be slowing you down. Most people wait until they are ready to speak, but that time never comes. And I'm guilty of this. I would consume a lot of the language, but when it was time to speak, I would struggle. It used to be discouraging for me because I would spend a lot of time listening to the language, listening to music, listening to podcasts, watching TV shows and movies. But when it was time to speak, especially in a group setting, I would struggle so much. I'll be honest, there were times because of that where I thought maybe languages are not for me because there's other people that can get languages like this. But for me, it just seemed like it was an impossible task. But then I sat back and I thought, how am I going to learn to speak a language if I'm not speaking the language, if that makes sense? I wasn't talking to anyone. I was just consuming the language, doing nothing but input. But I was expecting to be able to speak the language, which at the time made sense to me, but now looking back at it, makes zero sense. Here are 5 things that you can do to change that. Number 1, whether you're watching TV shows, movies, or even YouTube videos, mimic the way they speak. From their intonation all the way down to their hand gestures. It might sound or seem silly at first. This is a great practice for you to take into the real world because all around the world they speak differently. Spanish speakers speak differently to Portuguese speakers. Portuguese speakers speak differently to Italian speakers, and so on. Number 2, speak to yourself. Get into the habit of just speaking the language. You're probably already at a point where you're consuming a lot of the language, but start speaking. One good way to do this is when you're doing chores, you can speak, you can talk to yourself. Technically, you can talk to yourself about anything, but what I personally do is I describe what I'm doing. Another thing is when I'm outside, I pretend to be on the phone and I just speak. I would just speak French. I would just talk, I would just describe what I'm doing again. And I can also describe the day. I would also talk about things that I want to do that day or the things that I've done. Anything, just talk. Number 3, it's all well and good reading your book in your target language in your head, but I think it's way more beneficial if you read your book out loud. It helps with pronunciation and intonation and gets you familiar with how to overall speak the language. Number 4, journal. Any form of output is very important if you want to start speaking because you are creating. You're no longer just consuming. Now you've started to create. And if you're doing that, it will help you with speaking. It will help you to structure words and to think about what to say next because I know that you've definitely been in some situations where you're talking to someone, you feel like you know the language quite well, but when you're speaking, for whatever reason, your mind goes blank. If you were by yourself, you would know what to say, but because you're speaking to someone, you've got that pressure that that person is waiting for you for a reply, your mind goes blank. Journaling will help with that. Last but not least, number 5, if you've got the money, book some one-to-one classes using either italki or Preply. Personally, I can't talk too much about Preply because I've never used it before. I heard that it's good, but I use italki on a weekly basis. One lesson a week is sufficient to get to a decent level. 2 is better, but it could get quite pricey, especially depending on which language you're learning. However, if you can't afford a teacher at the moment, or if that's not where your priorities lie, then I would recommend you finding like a pen pal. Go on Tandem, HelloTalk, and do a language exchange with someone. Disclaimer, they are not the most reliable things because you never really know the other person's intentions, and it seems like it's become more of a dating site rather than a language exchange. I'm referring to both HelloTalk and Tandem. With putting yourself out there and doing a lot of output, you are bound to make mistakes. Mistakes mean progress. Don't be scared to make mistakes. That's the only way you will learn. If you found this video beneficial in any way, shape or form, drop a like, subscribe, comment, and until next time.